Baby, I can address this now that the energy is off me, but when I tell you I have deliberately watched kids, especially with my stepkids, people would get so mad at me when I would say things about they're children! Okay, like, you think screwed up adults just started being screwed up as adults? No, they've been plotting and planning for a while. But, people used to get so mad at me when I'd be like, my stepkids target me. Like, they don't like me. They're little mom's conduits that come into my home and execute their mom's plan within my home. And I wasn't allowed to publicly speak about it because it was children who were executing the things. So, yeah, I have watched children target me, and I would say something to my husband and he'd be like, oh, they're not doing that. Meanwhile, they're rubbing their hands together like Birdman, like, yeah, got you itching, I gotta just take it. And so I had to become on the defensive, which really lost a lot of time in our homes. So if I can change this conversation into the respect that if you are a stepchild, if your children are going into another space that is occupied by another woman or another man, please stop weaponizing your children against the other family. They're going to have two families, and that means they can have two philosophies and ideologies, actually four, because, right, two-parent household, that is what I strive for. Not saying there's anything with anything else. You can raise a child independently, very successful. Many of us, myself, I'm feeding into my kids the way that I'm feeding into my kids. My husband's feeding into the kids the way that he's feeding into kids, but he doesn't feed at the same rate that I do because he's just now getting into it, which means right now, at present, I am raising my children by myself to their highest potential. My husband is raising them as well, but I am feeding into them motherfuckers. I don't open my mouth and speak to my kids unless I'm growing them, period. Even in fun and games, even when we're joking, it's all growth opportunities. Anyway, please stop weaponizing your children and sending them into another woman's home or into another man's home to be a problem and to be a disruptor. They have an opportunity to grow themselves. Clearly, these people have been brought into their lives and their trajectory in order for a reason, right? Their life path is going to be affected by these people. You sitting and weaponizing your children is going to put a person in a position to be a trauma in your child's life. You are directly causing trauma through another person by sending your child into their home to be the enemy, and no man or no woman is going to let a child run their household. I just watched a video where this young man took the mom's fiance off of the face of the earth, and the way that the mom was speaking, I'll insert it at the end of this video so this video will be a little bit longer, but the way that this mom is speaking, the mother never liked the kid. You can tell. So we think that the dislike for our own children or the dislike for our parents starts when the offense happens. No, it's been percolating. It's been there. And then it finally reached a head. And we cannot think that children are not plotting. And in this present space that we live in, look, I used to dream because I was bullied. I used to dream about doing stuff to the people that bullied me at school. Now we live in a time where we actually do what we want to do to the bullies at school. So we live in a completely different world. So all these people who are adults, like, children don't do that. Children do. Y'all remember the joke? I wish you get hit by a bus. I used to wish both my parents would get hit by a bus. It never happened, thank God. But these kids out here. Baby mamas and baby daddies, that is a stigma that they have us embodying, like, do better. Like, we should be building, we should be thankful that our children have another source of knowledge, but we all need to be sources of knowledge. We do not need to be coming back behind someone who did something with our kid and contradicting it, especially if it's our spouse. Not our ex, our spouse.
Of 19-year-old Antonio Hicks, charged with killing Air Force Sergeant Johnny Clyburn last Tuesday, is speaking out. She believes her son was simply jealous of the love she had for the decorated sergeant. Clyburn was engaged to Hicks' mother, and she calls her son a monster, wishing he could be sentenced to death for his heinous crime. 7 Action News reporter Kimberly Craig has the story.
It's hard to imagine any mother wishing her own son could get the death penalty, but Nicolena Pace says not many mothers have seen what she has witnessed.
To me, he's a monster. You were smart enough not to shoot yourself like that. you knew exactly what you were doing.
Nicolina Pace is talking about her 19-year-old son, Antonio Hicks, who allegedly shot the man she was so eager to marry, her soulmate, Air Force Sergeant Johnny Clyburn.
I think the devil was in Antonio, and I think he was jealous. I think he was jealous that he had to leave, because he knew he had to leave. We were planning the wedding. We didn't want you here. He knew he had to leave. And John was not going to take care of a grown man that wasn't even trying to help himself.
Nicolina says her fiance was her everything, their love like a fairy tale. And she says all John ever tried to do was help her son, who was never diagnosed with a mental condition. But she and John thought the 19-year-old had some sort of problem, and John tried to help him get on Social Security. But Nicolina says her son never followed through, and he resented that he was going to have to move to Florida to live with his father.
If he does have schizophrenia and mental illness, he gives those people a bad name. I don't even believe he has that. I just think he has the devil in him.
The day after Memorial Day, when Sergeant Clyburn got home from work, he was in the basement cleaning up something Antonio broke.
So John turned around to see what Antonio wanted. That's when Antonio shot him.
Nicolina says she started hitting Antonio. He left the basement, but then came back.
What do you think made him come back downstairs?
Because I think he still thought John was alive.
And Nicolina does not waver when she says she wishes her son could get the death penalty.
Like a petition or something where he can get the death penalty and we can make an example out of him. And I would be the first person to put my signature at the top. I don't think he deserves to be here. He knew how in love we were. So why destroy it? It's like he walked away with something. Look what I took from you. He wanted to do this. I believe it was purposely done. I believe he thought about it. It was probably premeditated.
And to anyone who has ever loved John, Nicolina says she is sorry for what her son has done. On Detroit